Hi, can you count to 25? Of course you can. You're a successful small business person, you're an entrepreneur, you're watching NxBizSuccess, the video podcast for entrepreneurs who need to succeed. My name is Lynn Hinderacher, and I'm here to talk to you about the 25 simple steps that are required to set up the QuickBooks accounting system. We have a real pathfinder here with us today. Crystal Seabrandt, you're with HBE Becker Meyer Love in Lincoln, Nebraska. Why don't you guide us through the 25 steps? Doesn't take that long to get the whole QuickBooks system set up and you're good to go.
Right. Once you have QuickBooks installed, you just select this Create a New Company, and it takes you to an easy step wizard where you can just follow through this 25 steps.
Right here, yes.
And just click on this Start Interview. And the first screen you see here is just your basic company information, so you can just enter that in.
All right.
And move on to the next screen.
Wow, that was easy.
Very easy.
All right, that's step one, I think, huh?
Step one.
Okay.
And the next screen shows that you'll need to select your industry. So
All right.
whatever industry you're in, find it on the drop-down menu
Right.
and select it. And we're going to go with a general service-based business.
All right. That'd be the business I'd choose, by the way.
And then how is your company organized? So when you set up your legal documents on organization, what did you set your company up as?
Okay.
Sole proprietorship, partnership, LLC?
And right here on NxBizSuccess, we do some instructionals and other podcasts about how to organize your small
Sure.
business. So you can keep that in mind. It's all linked together.
It is linked together.
Okay.
Then this next screen will ask you what's the first month of your fiscal year.
All right.
Most people's fiscal year is actually their calendar year. It's whatever tax year you have. So if you're on a calendar year, your first month is January.
All right.
And then this next screen allows you to enter a password if you want to password protect your QuickBooks file. You don't have to enter one, but you're allowed to if you'd like.
Do most people need the password and the obstacle and the filter and so on? Is it just for their spouse and bookkeeper, or does it matter?
I think a lot of people, it just depends on the office size. If you've got a lot of people in your office and you don't want to have people just access it whenever they want, you might want a password.
Larger companies probably have that.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And then it will create your company file. And it'll ask you, where do you want to save this company file on your computer?
Oh, usually on the C drive, right, I'm assuming?
C drive or your desktop, wherever it's easiest for you to access.
Or maybe a shortcut from your C drive to the desktop.
Exactly.
Okay.
So we're just going to save ours on the desktop.
All right.
And then it'll take a few seconds to actually create the file.
Okay. Now we're set up right now. We're about 7 or 8 steps into the process. Sure. Seems pretty easy so far. Does it get tougher after this?
Well, you know, it really just guides you through the process, so it's not that difficult.
Okay.
You just really have to know what you want, what you have in mind for your business.
Okay. And that's not always the easiest decision. You have to kind of think that through before you get to this point.
Right.
Right. Absolutely. Okay. Well, we're almost set up on the C drive of your laptop right here. We're ready to move forward with our small company, right?
We are. It asks you what you want to sell, and we set up ours as a service business, so we're going to say services only.
Right there at the top.
And do you want to charge sales tax? Most services are not subject to sales tax, so we're going to say no.
All right.
Do you want to create estimates in QuickBooks? This is if you want to give bids to your clients or proposals. Simple yes or no answer there.
Okay.
We're going to say yes.
Okay, good.
And then would you like to be able to create sales receipts for your clients?
That's...
And most of the time you're going to want to answer yes, because you want to be able to give that paper trail to your clients.
All right.
And then are you going to want to send billing statements for services? And I think everybody will want to answer yes to that.
Yeah, because you'll send out invoices and they won't always get paid in a timely fashion, so you have to break up the invoice and send out a balance due, right?
Correct.
All right, so there's your statement.
And again, just like Lynn said, the next question is, do you want to accept partial payments and send out invoices for the remaining balance due?
Good. Well, these are all really important decisions to make kind of upfront.
They are.
How we're going to run our books.
Right.
Yeah.
And then do you want to be able to manage the bills you owe? So do you want to be able to enter bills that you owe to different vendors? And most of the time you do, because you want to know when those due dates are coming up and when your cash flow will have to go out the door.
Well, now, Crystal, let me ask you, why wouldn't you want to manage the bills? I mean, why would you even ask that question?
Well, if some people don't want to do the accounts payable function on the QuickBooks, you might answer no, but you know, we're talking about getting a complete set of records, so really, if that's your objective, we want to answer
Probably
yes.
in your best interest to do that.
Right.
Okay.
And then do you want to print checks? QuickBooks has the capability to print checks on your local printer if you'd like to have check stock that runs through a printer.
Okay.
Otherwise, you can just answer no and you'll just manually write your checks as usual.
All right. What's next?
Do you accept credit cards?
Ah. And more small businesses do that, do they not?
They do.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Does it complicate things much, or really with QuickBooks not a big deal?
I don't think it really complicates it because you can integrate,
Okay.
just as we spoke about.
There's usually a little processing fee for each of them, but there's
Right.
probably a category for credit card fees in your chart of accounts, right?
Exactly.
Okay, sounds good.
And then you're able to track your time in QuickBooks. If you have a service-based business, you may be charging by the hour. And so there's a function in QuickBooks where you can keep track of your time for which client you're spending time on, and makes it easier to bill. So you might answer yes to this.
All
We're
right.
going to go ahead and answer no.
Okay.
And then it asks if you have employees. So this will kind of get you set up on the ordering the extra payroll module if necessary. But also, you do want to answer yes if you have 1099 contractors.
Ah,
so
okay.
that'll help you come tax time when you have to file those 1099 forms.
So both payroll and 1099s.
Right, not just employees.
All right, so that's not an either-or question. You can have both.
You can have both.
Okay.
Yeah, you can mark both boxes or just one. And then, do you want to track multiple currencies?
Huh. Well, we're in a global society.
We
That's
are.
increasingly common, right?
It is.
Sure.
We're going to go ahead and say no, though.
Okay, all right.
And now comes to the important part, setting up the chart of accounts. And it's going to give you a basic mainframe to start off of.
Okay.
First, it asks you, do you want to start with your fiscal year beginning right at 1109, or do you want to pick a date in between? Maybe you started your business in May rather than in January.
Okay. We kind of made this decision earlier as well, did we not?
We did.
Okay.
And then you can add an existing bank account. So we're
Ah.
going to add an existing bank account. You enter the bank account name. And then if you'd like, you can enter your account number information. QuickBooks will store it.
Okay. So
You
then
don't
you'll
have
know
to,
how the money comes out of one account and goes into another, possibly. Okay.
Right.
That's good to know.
And then it asks, when did you open this bank account? Before your start date in QuickBooks or after?
Okay.
So this is important because when we get to the reconciliation function, it won't work right if you don't have the beginning balance correct.
Ah,
So if you've
back to
had
that
a
check
beginning
reconciliation,
balance,
that's very important.
Right.
Yeah.
If you've had a beginning balance in the past, you'll want to say that we started this bank account before.
Okay.
So we're going to do
Because
that.
that amount factors into the balance.
Right.
Sure.
And then you can enter the balance on your last statement you received. So we're going to say at 12/31/2008, our balance was $10,000.
Okay.
And then it says, do you want to add another bank account?
All right.
And then it gets to the basic chart of accounts, and it's going to suggest accounts that you set up based on the type of organization. So it gives you that starting point.
Kind of like a template.
Right, a template.
And we decided earlier in the process, back around step 3 or 4, that we were a service organization.
Right.
So now we see some options that would be typical for service organizations. All right, go ahead and select a few for our viewers.
So on the left-hand side of the screen there, it gives you the options, and you just check mark whatever you want to see on your chart of accounts. So really think through this process, but keep it simple.
All right.
And so, as you can see, there's multiple options here. We're just going to go with the ones that they pre-assigned.
Okay.
And then it says, congratulations, you're done.
Oh my gosh, are we already at step 25?
We're at step 25.
Wow, that didn't take 6-7 minutes.
Right.
Unbelievable. Even somebody that is a putz with numbers can figure out the wizard.
Sure.
Outstanding. Well, the chart of accounts is an extremely important part of the setup process.
It really is.
What are the common mistakes that people make when they set up chart of accounts? Too complex? They get into they categorize expenses too much, or revenue, or what?
I would say the number one mistake is too complex.
Okay. All
Because in order to make the information meaningful, you have to have just some general categories.
All right, great. Well, Crystal Seabrand from HBE in Lincoln, Nebraska, this has been really helpful and pretty illuminating. Obviously not that tough to get set up on this sophisticated bookkeeping system. All right, this is our first hands-on instructional right here with QuickBooks. We've got 6 or 7 more all the way through records and money in and money out, keeping on track, taxes, right?
Right.
And always trying to save money, save cash. Check us out in our next hands-on video right here on NxBizSuccess. My name's Lynn Hinderrocker. Keep on going, keep on growing.